The purpose of alchemy is to release the deity in matter, wrote the famous psychologist Carl Jung. It is, quote, to liberate the quintessential core of matter through repeated processes of purification. To release the deity in matter does not only mean to access the secrets of transformation in nature and its innumerable matter fields, but to liberate the divine, or we can say the original sap of life. That is nothing else for us humans than to become aware of the most subtle aspect in us, our psycho-spiritual essence, our soul. Alchemy science would say the hidden quintessential principle hidden in all expressions of life. In the understanding of the ancient philosophy of the Vedas, the soul gets entangled by the game of Maya, the illusionary game of ignorance about the universal reality hidden behind. In order to lift up the veil of this ignorance and the suffering attached to it, man must accept to go through successive processes of purification, leading to a clearer and clearer comprehension about his true role in the universe. The accompanying elements of this transformational game is to let all one's impurities, suppressed energies, incarnative habits, etc., surface and expose them to one's attention, so that one can be liberated from them. The ancient science of alchemy was an attempt to understand the soul's journey through life, and alchemists were spirit warriors committed to personal growth and refinement in preparation for the mystery of death and beyond, writes Jean Benedict Raffer in her beautiful article Alchemy and the Journey of Transformation. In the Vedic scriptures of India, one can find a beautiful mythology called the churning of the milk ocean. The king of the serpents, Vasuki, is curled around a mountain called Mandara, which is posed in an ocean of water on god Vishnu in form of a great turtle. Devas, the demigods, and Asuras, the demons, pall on serpent's body to churn the water of the ocean for thousands of years in order to produce the nectar of immortality, Amrita. The pulling back and forth of the positive forces of the Devas, the gods, and the negative forces of the Asuras, the demons, is nothing else than a picture of these forces in ourselves. Let us not forget, the churning happens inside our own ocean of consciousness. That is the level where the subtle, microcosmic alignment in man mimics the macrocosmic alignment, says Patricia Norelli Bachelet. And this alignment means also the harmonization between the male and the female, for example, male and female outside and inside in us humans, or the animus and anima, as would say Carl Jung, or the sun and the moon principle in us and in nature, or the so-called Ida and Pingala, or energy channels in the tree of life of our own spinal axis, or Kundalini. The great teacher of Theosophy, Krishnamurti, explains, quote, "We may compare mind to an ocean, in which there arise waves of emotions and thoughts. We often use the word manomantari, which represents the great churning in the mind. Whenever we are faced with difficult situations and are unable to decide what course to choose. When our mind is pulled in two different directions, it is subject to intense churning and a great turmoil is set up." Churning means also distilling ourselves to arrive to the quintessence of our human condition as made in the image of God, means getting nearer to what we are in reality, nearer to our soul or our subtle body of bliss, called Anandamaya Kosha in Vedic science, present in the finest strata of our inner being. And this churning is a process of opening and closing the inner vortex of life, millions of times of yes and no, love and hate, integration and aversion, expansion and contraction, all the interactions of our vegetative energies steamed and condensed re-steamed and recondensed, to finally release the light, the fragrant light of our own immortal flower of life. Distillation of plants is nothing other than exposing the plant to the same process of birth and death, to the fire of transformational release of its quintessential compounds, the essential oils. This process may take sometimes, let's say 30 to 40 minutes, in the example of lavender, more than 1 day, example of vetiver, 3 times in 2 days, for example in the case of cypress, or molecular selective distillation several times in a day in the case of ylang ylang, or multiple recycling of the transformational catalyst to water, that means cohobation, as for example in the case of rose, melissa, verbena, etc. Also the use of alcohol in extracting vanilla absolute, or the use of solvents, such like hexane or liquid carbon dioxide, as for example in the case of champaka, jasmine, tuberose. A majority of traditional cultures, cosmologies and ancient systems of medicine contain some form of 3 basic principles, which we also find in the realm of plants. For example, in the Ayurvedic tradition it is Vata, Pitta and Kapha. In Vedic philosophy it is Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, or Rishi, Devata and Chandas. In astrology it is cardinal, mutable and fixed. In Western alchemical tradition it is Sulfur, Mercurius and Sal. In molecular science it is the electron, the proton and the neutron. To a certain degree, this threefold structure of the universe is nothing else than an expression of the relative side of existence. 2 basic elements opposing each other and a mediator as a third force acting in between them. From the point of view of modern quantum physics, they all unite in one single field, which is called the unified field of all the laws of nature. Seen from this angle, they are all the same, just expressed via different interactions. The science of alchemy also divides the living structures of plants into a threefold principle. Sulfur, for example, the flower, always colorful. Mercurius, the leaves, nearly always green in color. And Sal, the root, nearly always poor or dark in color. Let's have a closer look to these 3 principles. For example, Sal, the root principle. The root is the central nervous system of the plant, one can say. Sal is a combination of the water and earth element. The plant thinks with the root, feels with the root. Charles Darwin said it like this: if we need to find an integrative processing part of the plant, we need to look at the roots. It is hardly an exaggeration to say that the tip of the root, endowed with sensitivity and having the power of directing the movements of the adjoining parts, acts like the brain of one of the lower animals. End of quote. The medicinal value of root and also wood and resin oils is often for the higher energy centers of us humans. We need such oils to ground us in the intelligence of Mother Earth. They are specifically helpful for our sensory and our nervous system. These are oils like, for example, Jatamansi, Angelica root, Costus root, vetiver, Nagamota, also Atlas cedar, Palo Santo, myrrh, frankincense, etc. These oils are more composed by denser biochemical compounds such as sesquiterpenes or sesquiterpenols. We remember, the brain is the root of man in the understanding of ancient cultures. In the ancient mythology picture, the upside-down tree expresses the same principle, also as mentioned in Vedic scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita, in form of the famous Ashwata tree. Rudolf Steiner hinted at the same idea when saying, man is a plant turned upside down. And look at this Kurdish saying: "The root of all health is in the brain. The trunk of it is in emotions. The branches and leaves are the body. The flower of health blooms when all parts work together." So we may want to say, taking care of our roots is taking care of our consciousness. Plants and essential oils help us to connect the high and the low, the ethereal and the terrestrial in us, the as above, so below principle, as the alchemists would say, grounding and simultaneously opening up to our innermost nature, which is rooted in living the magical polarity of the universe. It is clear the root principle in the plant is to penetrate and to absorb. This resembles the element of inquiry, of selection, discrimination, differentiation, all this of the human mind. The root of a plant has gravitational intelligence and vegetative dynamics, according to anthroposophic understanding. And it has little formative character, little playfulness of shape, color, fragrance. Absorption of water and minerals, mycotic exchange between minerals and water against glucose, nutritional sensory perception. All these are root elements, which can make us think of corresponding values on the level of our own tree of life. We can say of our spinal cord or kundalini, the root of which grows in heaven, as the oldest written text of mankind, Rig Veda in the 10th mandala says. Interesting also to remember, the root through its contact with the world of minerals connects to a world inferior to itself, whereas the blossom links itself via its astral tendency to a world superior to itself, which is expressive in its connection with the light of the cosmos and also the realm of insects, animals, etc. The root wants to root to the ground, to obey the law of gravitation. It detects water, smells the mycorrhizae, the microscopic fungi of the soil, here hiding in the so-called food web, to absorb the minerals, produces its own specific blend of salts, and then sends them out via the sap to the higher spheres of the plant. The root is also interested in basic matter transformation, and it is the chief engineer, for example, behind building miracles like the sequoia tree, for example, of over 100 meters in height sometimes. This is one reason why in its vegetative strength it is long-living, insistent, not caring for beauty or deco. But not to forget, it is also dependent on the energy of light transferred down to the ground from the leaves and the flowers. Then we have Sulfur, the blossom principle. The blossom on its side wants to explore other realms, get away from the burden of the physical, the heaviness of gravitation. And in this it is short-lived, but shining with great makeup, putting all its attention on partnership with the near and the far. And all this is good to keep in mind to better understand what kind of energy and central intelligence we can find in the essential oils of the different organs of a plant. Blossoming means coming nearer to the realm of animals and human beings, as explains Rudolf Steiner. Here a quote: "In the development of fruits and seeds, certain substances are created that correspond to a higher degree of metabolism comparable to that of animal and man." End of quote. These are specifically hormone-like substances, also alkaloids, for example, and also not to forget the carrier oils, specifically produced in the blossoms, the second life, so to say, of the plant, the reproduction and creation of the seeds. Sulfur is a harmonious combination of the air and fire elements. It is hot and airy, diffusive, expansive, anti-gravitational. Its best expression are the volatile oils from so many flowers, like rose, jasmine, ylang-ylang, lavender, geranium, neroli, etc., etc. But also the seed essential oils like fennel seed, anise seed, coriander seed, etc. And of course, as just mentioned, the many carrier oils, which express a transformational dynamics from fragrance and volatility, as in the essential oils, to non-volatility and pure fragrance. Their job is different, of course. They have to go back to the ground, back to gravity, and they do not want to carry with them a make-up perfume to attract hungry opportunists. Within the human body, the sulfur principle is best reflected in our digestive and procreative organs and the corresponding Agni, or fire element, which we need for their transformational charge. This does not mean that the beautiful oils of blossoms are only fixed to these areas. Of course not. Spiritually, sulfur is reflected as our Atma, or soul, which is our true essence. Sulfur is the fire of our innermost consciousness. And this fire is needed everywhere, be it in our mind, body, or soul. And as much as our soul stretches out into astrality, wanting to read the Akashic chronicles, so to say, of its eternal existence, the blossom opens its being to the warming ether around and fills itself with the fire of the sun and the cosmic radiance of the moon and the stars. Indeed, botanists confirm that the blossom is the hottest organ of the plant. And yes, it is true what the famous German poet and nature scientist Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said. The blossom is nothing but a metamorphosis of the leaves. We can say a further outlook, a next step, since nothing can be stagnant, but what a step. In the blossom, green becomes colorful, fragrant, assembled into a composition of many in one. The flat leaf becomes a three-dimensional presence of a new entity, radiant in never-ending creativity, to express the astral beauty of its Devic originator. And then in its fragrance, its aroma, and its essential oil, the plant surpasses and surprises itself, revealing another deep layer of its spiritual essence, its quest to reconnect with the multidimensional ether. Impregnated by the light element of fire, air, and space, the plant with its blossom and the essential oils surpasses itself as if pulled by the thrust of an evolutionary dynamics into another dimension where new rules are reigning. Every plant has a unique flavor. Nothing in the world can imitate it. Try to find the same fragrance of a lavender oil, even from the same field 1 year later. And what a miracle when these flavors pass through time. The 25 years old lavender oil from our fields at our aromatherapy training center in High-Provence in France, I kept a few liters of them. Don't think you can ever smell the same lavender somewhere in the world. Fragrance of an essential oil plant has something like a unique, let's call, astral identity. And the essential oil has something with it that wants to pull us out of our being, bound by the physical compression of the body. Wants to lift us up, inviting us to sing the same song. Luminous beings we are, not this crude matter, as says Master Yoda in Star Wars Episode 5, you remember? So we can say, the blossom incorporates best the principle of fragrance, and it is from the level of the blossom, the sulfur element per se in the plant, that fragrance will be able to penetrate other organs of the plant. Rudolf Steiner again expresses this very clearly. And because the activity from which scent arises exists in its most concentrated form in sulfur, we would be right to follow the medical terminology of the past and call the spiritual extractive principle in the plant through which scent arises a principle that causes longing to arise in the elemental spirits, the sulfur principle in the plant. And what is this longing to arise in the elemental spirits? What is it other than the deeply embedded desire in every being in the universe to transcend itself and reach out to a higher state of evolution? Aromatherapy in this sense is nothing less than connecting ourselves with this thrust of life for higher levels of energy, which the plant offers best in the fragrance of its essential oils. And it is exactly this dynamics of wanting to surpass itself which then becomes the healing element for man when he has become sick, diseased, and lost his own connection with the elemental spirits in himself. And this means real medicine cannot be defined by using static elements, such as the allopathic pills, but it has to have and convey access to an energy which in itself is dynamized by the vortex of its own inherent spin towards higher levels of evolution. Or to say it poetically, medicine has to raise the person to his own blooming so that he can come nearer to the realm of spirit, where all fruits and seeds of fulfillment are stored forever. And then, last not least, Mercury, the leaf principle. The Mercury principle is composed of the water and air element. It is characterized by movement, by rhythm and fluctuation between the two poles of the root and the blossom. Its main location, therefore, is in the leaves and the stem of the plant, where the gas exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide and the miracle of photosynthesis takes place. Here we are on the most intense level of exchange between the inner and the outer, the body and its surrounding atmosphere, where the plant becomes a biochemical transformer in its specific balance and creative mode. In human anatomy, this is expressed in the inhale-exhale dynamics of the lungs. The leaf principle, therefore, has its position between the sphere of the blossom, drunk in color, fragrance and light, and the sphere of the root, sunk into the lightless depths of Mother Earth and spinning its web of impulses and hidden energies from here. Expose a root to the light and it dies. Expose a blossom away from light and it dies. But this does not mean lack of energy in the ground. The leaves in the middle supply to both levels, to the higher and the lower, all the energy from light needed for the plant's magic transformation of anorganic elements like the minerals into organic molecules of vibrating life. And the root gives it back. No life without the water and the minerals sucked up from its never-ending thirst for exploring the grounds of the soil for more vitality and deep levels of expansion. It is a very special position with this middle part of the plant. It is settled in between the volatile sphere of the blossom and the fixed sphere of the root. Mercurius, the messenger god of the Greek mythology, is definitely a much-needed mediator here between the two worlds of the densely grounded matter of the root and the etheric spirit of the blossom. And the essential oils in all this? Definitely the oils from the leaves or needles have a lot to do with our own mediating organs, situated in the lungs and the heart. Are we not doing the same here like the plant? Gas exchange, rhythmic activities, transformational inclination via breathing and heartbeat? Get the spirit down into the body, screams the breath. Get the obstruction and cramping of the body out into the ether, screams the heart. So then, let us work on this and oxygenate the system with the rising and descending whiffs and whirls of these amazing oils like eucalyptus or ravinsara, silver fir, niauli, myrtle, cajeput, bay laurel, and so many others. Yes, when the leaves breathe green, all life on earth breathes. Mercurius, the mediator, is in action. And we humans breathe green also, especially when inhaling the beautiful mercurial energies of nature's huge kaleidoscope of leaf and needle oils. Their pulsations transmit the energies of our own root to the energies of our own flower of life, and vice versa. What a miracle in creation! Ayurveda would say this is connecting kapha with vata, enhancing the flow of our vital energies of soma and of ojas, which are so essential for vitality and health. In every leaf and leaf oil we find the powerful energy of the sun and of the cosmic radiations. It is vitality direct, be it via inhaling, via smelling, or a chest rub, a few drops on the kidneys, some milliliters maybe into the diffuser, etc., etc. We can also say, when our lungs breathe green with oxygen or oxygenated compounds of essential oils, all life in the body starts to breathe. The lungs are mercurious, and they enable us, as mentioned, to connect the brain, the heart, with the lower energy centers of our system. They are the motor force of our inner tree of life. With conscious breathing and with intent, we can at any moment directly control or change the second most important rhythm in our system, our heartbeat, and thereby influence numerous other vital functions in our body. Air, or Vayu in Ayurveda, dominates the respirational rhythm. No wonder that we can, with the help of pranic breathing, or with the help of inhaling or smelling essential oils, have an influence on our Vata dosha, the major potential imbalance creator in our system, often reflected in panic, anxieties, insecurities, and all kinds of stress syndromes and psychophysiological imbalances. So then, in the alchemy of plant distillation or churning, we can discover the secret of our own self-distillation and the purpose of the alchemy of human evolution. Because churning has to happen inside ourselves, as we have seen, in order to arrive at the quintessence of our human condition, meaning getting nearer to what we are in reality, nearer to the soul or our body of bliss. And for this to happen, we have to accept, yes, even to provoke moments in our life where chaos may reign over order, discomfort over comfort, insecurity over security. Why this? Because it is exactly through the alternation of change and non-change that we are able to reprogram ourselves, let go of useless or unevolutionary habits, question major issues of our life, and find new solutions from deeper levels inside ourselves. If we do not accept to be partners of this alchemistic way of change and purify, the universe will take care of it and make it uncomfortable for us. Otherwise, we would never move. Evolution does not happen from comfort zones. How do you think the plants around us otherwise would still be here? They are the survivors, you can say, of an endless game of challenge and response. And we can use and copy their strategies of energy deployment, biochemical strategies, biophotonic intelligence, etc. for our own health, our own home, our own happiness. And this particularly through their essential oils, liquefied plant medicine for a new era of health giving for humanity.